Hello. Hi, Fox. I'm going live now, honey bun. All right, I'm going to start. I didn't realize how nerve-wracking this was going to be. Can you guys hear me? Goldie? Just learning and learning with you. Okay, I'm going to close this out. Guys. Okay, exit. Hi. So there's a huge delay. I can already hear it. I'm thinking. Hello? Yeah, I'm going to have to probably reset it maybe. How's it looking out there, guys? How's it there? How's it looking at? Oh, look at Bubba's in the. No delay here. Okay, that's so weird. So maybe it's just in my headphone. That's so annoying. I wonder if I can change that. Audio, built-in headphone. Check. Hello? Nope, still delayed. Dang it, guys. Okay. Okay, I don't know what. Well, this one, we're just gonna, hi, welcome everybody. This is my first one. I'm wondering if I should just take out my headphones so that I don't have a lag. Yeah, because that's gonna interrupt me. It's super behind. Okay, it's not that I need to hear myself anyway. Here, maybe I'll just pull this up. All right, it turned off in-ear monitor when I stream. Okay, let me try that. Can you guys still hear me? Sounds great. Okay, everybody says it sounds great. So basically, I'm just hearing myself. So that's super annoying. All right, cool. So welcome to LARA FM TV. Definitely a hashtag off of SPTV. I'm wondering if there's a way I can mute. If I do that, can you guys still hear me or no? I'm wondering. Anybody? If I get a definite Goldie, can you hear me with this muted right now? Because that will be perfect. Because then I don't hear myself talking back. Hi, everybody. I love this chat. There's a lot of names. They look familiar. The graded daughters. Hi. Good. You can hear me. We can hear you. Okay. You can hear it right now, even when I muted. Okay, good. Amazing. Let's begin. All right. So I'm going to specifically start talking from the beginning. I created this first episode, the beginning, because it's super hard to begin. Like when somebody's like, oh, I mean, there's always the many questions like, how did you get out? Or, oh, you were in the Sea Org, or how did you get in the cadet org? Oh, how did your parents get into that? Like there's so many of this. There's so many beginnings. When is the beginning? Is it when I went to the ranch? Is it when I was born? So I think I'm just gonna start kind of how we had to do in the Sea Org, in a sort of life history sort of style. Start from the beginning of like who my parents are, blah blah blah, and then we'll go into my lifeline, which is all involved in being in the Sea Org and in Scientology under L. Ron Hubbard's disgusting, poisonous, toxic, abusive policies and control of Sea Org organizations and Scientologists and everybody in it. Okay, so I also want to just also start off by saying this is a therapeutic thing for myself for sure, because owning your voice and owning almost a stand or having a platform, a strength, a power for people to know that they can also tell their stories. The whole point of this is we want it to stop. We want to be able to be close to our families. We want to heal all of this and make this okay, and like come out and be even better and greater people for the planet, because that was the original idea. That's what pulls Scientologists into Scientology. That's what they go, oh my God, they're helping the planet, they're saving the planet. When that is a big enough thing for you to fall into as just a regular person coming into Scientology, to make you go, oh my God, I want to help change the planet. I want to change myself. I want to be better, So yeah, we're going to start. My purpose here is not to attack my parents. My purpose here is not to, this is literally this is releasing the facts of how children are brought into Scientology and then into the Sea organization, and how this has been okayed through trafficking. You call it sex trafficking, child trafficking, whatever it is. And then they're held under their will and under their prison of belief to not be able to do the whole reason they go into Scientology for. They're going to help. They're going to help themselves. They're going to be a better person. And they're literally being scanned and conned from the beginning. I have a different story in how I fell into that, but that is the intention of Scientology, is to get, everybody into this behavior, into this mechanism, into their brainwashing machine. These are the policies. This is exactly how you have to do it. These are the rules. These are your justice systems. These are your ethics and justice life protocols. This is how you solve things. This is the only way you can solve them. Any other way is ruining your own freedom, your own bridge to freedom. Okay. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start from my parents being in Toronto. They were born and raised, I guess, in Toronto, Canada. Both individually, they met in the organization in Toronto. My mother, bear with me as well, because I'm learning a lot of this as I am discovering it. And so, or I learned it not too long ago. And so I'm finally putting pieces together. So again, therapeutic for all of us, especially for the kids as well who are at the ranch. We're going to get to all that. And so I'm hoping that, we'll be able to help and learn and love, learning and loving with each other about this whole subject. Okay, so yeah, my mom and dad, Diane and Phil Anderson, they were in Toronto, Canada, met at the Canada org. There's a cute little story and all that, or at least what I've been told from my mom and dad, and how they met, and salt and pepper and whatever. And then they, in Canada, had my brother, Jarrett Anderson, and my sister, Colleen Anderson. And then when they were getting ready, so they then, when they were like more obviously dedicated Scientologists and staff members now, so they're not in the Sea Org yet, but they're staff members, and then they join and sign their Sea Org contract. But during that time, they had my brother and my sister, and then as they're getting more and more involved in Scientology, from there, um, they got, I guess, orders or got, we need you here up at the, headquarters, at the in base, at Gold. I didn't know what that was then, but, so my mom was 6 months pregnant around that, and, uh, I mean, as you know, a lot of there's a lot of ways that Scientology organizations, physically have groomed people into getting them across other countries and whatever, and joining the Sea Org or coming to America, even saying like, "Oh, you can, you know, here's America. You can have your, your American dream. You can join, you can help save the planet, and you can come here." Like this is there's trafficking. There's many ways of their trafficking, but this is one of the ways. You can come here and have a free life in America and really help and save the planet, et cetera, et cetera. So my mom and dad get these orders to come to Los Angeles and be part of the base here. A lot of you out there, these are things I would like to fill in between the years, in between like 85 and 86. My mom and dad were down here in the big blue building in Los Angeles, and my mom was pregnant with me, and in 1986, February 12th, I was born at the Mama Shelter. It's called the Mama Shelter Hotel now, but it was, I think, just called the Wilcox Building or the Wilcox. It's not the Wilcox where other people were born. That is closer to the organization. It's actually, the address is 6500 Wilcox Avenue. I was born there, room 516 to be exact. It's now this cute little hotel that's called the Mama Shelter Hotel, which is such a weird coincidence. Like that was another thing that just blew my mind as I'm pulling up to the new renovated hotel that used to look like a crack house or a vacant building for like 8 years. So I always was so ashamed, like, oh God, I was born there. And now it's like this cute, like sweet little hipstery hotel. And now I'm like, oh my God, I was born in here, and this, like, not in this style at all, but now I go there and I'm like, I was born in room 516 and I'm out of this crazy shit. Okay, so I was born there February 12th in Hollywood in 1986. My mom had me. I asked my dad one time when I was telling him, I'm dad, I'm doing a little documentary and putting together my rock star life or whatever, right? And he was like, oh, cool. He never heard me say anything negative about Scientology. So he was giving me information, and I had asked him one time, like, were you there at my birth? Like, were you? And because I was he didn't know what I did know, that mom flew over with me while she was pregnant, and my dad had stayed back to take care of the bills and all that, and take care of Colleen and Jarrett, my sister and brother. So when I asked him, he was like, he had this weird answer. Maybe he was there. I don't know. Maybe he felt bad. I have no idea. But there was some weird thing there. But apparently, yeah, he was there, at least for a little bit. Anyway, so I was born. Then I'm going to cut it really fast, or try to just kind of give you the timeline so we can really get into, there's many details that are going to flop back and forth as I go through this story, long ass story. So then I was born, and then I was taken care of by my mother sometimes during certain hours when I was first born, but most of the time they put us in this place called the ATA, Apollo Training Academy, I think is what it's called. I have no idea what that has to do with kids being locked up behind green fences and like not being able to look outside and not letting people being able to come look inside. Anyway, so I was taken care of. The care, we're going to rearrange all these words because none of that happened. There was no care in the way that society literally, like a child, what do you call those? A child services person would call what care is. Care, I just remember being, you know, my mom coming in her uniform and her little bow tie, whatever they were wearing in the 80s and 90s. And the white, I remember white, and I remember blue too, white and black and blue, like the bow ties, whatever. I'll show pictures and all that later as we continue to do these episodes. But so she would come visit. These are memories of what I have. She would come visit at the ATA very late, and sometimes I would sleep over, and I would remember looking down below, you know, in the middle of the night, and always weird ambulance sounds and all kinds of stuff from the outside, which we have no idea. Like, I don't know what that is as a kid, and we're separated for sure. Just knowing parents, Sea Org, this, they're going to their post, their job, coming back really late, coming to get me. There was a big teddy bear that I was really obsessed with all the time. Like, that was my comfort. I would be able to sleep, etc. I remember cockroaches and oh yeah, I was saying, as I looked under, there was other kids that peed, and we were sleeping on these cots, and there were some kids that were cold and like would be cold, and you could see, anyways, whatever. There were pee. You could see all the kids had pee. So there's the care was, and this is like from a 3-year-old, 2-year-old kid. I remember this stuff. So it was already going like, oh, we like, oh, they peed, you know. But like as an adult now, I'm going like, how was that care? Like, who was cleaning this up? Why were there 5 kids with old peas just sitting there? Anyways, that was just a little thing. There was cockroaches constantly. We were always, I just remember that being like really frightened of cockroaches. I still have this like weird fear of cockroaches. And then I remember there was just little moments of that. I remember the teacher, Vivian Jenner. I remember some of the kids, Vanessa Delderfield, Shanae, what's her name? Shanae Treasure was one of her. And these two both ended up at the Ent Ranch later. We'll talk about that. And some other people. I just don't remember because I was too young. But I do know. And then there would be this like middle area where the kids could come out, and I would see my sister in the other class and my brother in the kind of older. I can't even say class, because now I understand what school is and class and education. And I'm like, the other room with the older kids, I guess. And so when they would come out on their little break or whatever, when they have their 15-minute break or whatever, they would be, I just remember like my sister would be or my brother would be rollerblading, and they would like tag a little bit. I don't know. There wasn't much of that, but I do remember the teacher, Vivian Jenner. She probably had a lot on her hands, but I think she did try. I mean, as most of these people do, they do try their best, but it's overwhelming for anybody if you have taking care of 25, 30 kids or whatever, and you're the only one having the responsibility to do this. But I do remember her, and then I just remember a certain time being like, okay, getting prepared and getting approved to like go to the ranch. Like we're going to the ranch, and I just knew it was like, ooh, like I had no concept, idea, nothing. I just remember we were special. Me and my sister and my brother are going, and we're going in this van soon on a run to go to Gold Base, or to go to up. They said up to Int, or up Int. Anyways, whatever. So then what I kind of remember from this time is like having my bear. Number one, I had my bear and the suitcase, a big gray suitcase or something. And was what we had. And my sister and me went in. I don't, and maybe my brother was in the back or something. I don't remember very well. I just remember being in the van and going like, oh my God, we're driving. And then probably fell asleep or something, because I was a young kid and all this was probably a lot for me. And then so I just remember kind of waking up or whatever, pulling up to these gates. Like, I do remember there being some sort of awning and some sort of like, you know, later they upgraded it so it looked even more, you know, oh, so magical and nice. But I do remember there being something, and then we were driving in, and I just remember coming around the bend and pulling up and seeing you know, the property was kind of not that great. Like, I remember later on in my life fixing it all up and then seeing later before and after, so I've just remembered the feeling of a kid like, "Oh, we're here." This wasn't as special as my little kid brain had imagined all of this excitement was for. And then I randomly saw, I think it was Ariella Coleman, who was another cadet, probably, I guess, like, around 7, 6, no, she was, like, 5 or 6 years old at the time, and she was coming out with a few other kids, and at this time, this is, like, 1990, um, the kids were wearing civvies, which they call them civvies, like civilian clothes. They were wearing civvies, which are just any clothes that aren't the, I don't even know if that's a normal, is that a military term? I don't know. Another Sea Org wannabe military term. Um, so we were wearing civvies at the time when we got there, and then after over a few years, you know, I guess as we were getting older, they slowly had us working on little projects and then bigger projects, not even a few years. It was like I remember being 5 years old and, you know, boom, we were getting our new we were getting uniform and, you know, we were learning our schedule. So they were writing out the schedule from 6:30 to 7 is wake up time. 6:30, wake up. 6:30, you know, they started having us do this thing called Chinese school, which is probably a racist term, but I have no idea, but because I know it does come from, anyways, whatever. It sounds weird, where they repeat the thing and they have you recite. Like, so one person comes up and they have like a ruler and they have it on butcher paper and they're reciting the schedule, which later turned, once we got that down verbatim, we would then turn it into L. Ron Hubbard's policies. They would have us learn verbatim, like knowledge reports, a team, um, knowledge reports. I'm sure y'all have heard this on the SBTV channel. Knowledge reports is when somebody writes something on another person. It's basically tattletelling or letting somebody know, like, oh, this person did something out ethics or you know, whatever it was, non-standard to L. Ron Hubbard policy, and so they're going to go and get sent to ethics, the justice person, to fix it. So we were learning the policy letter on knowledge reports and as kids. So this is happening on a daily basis now. So now we're getting uniform inspections. Like sometimes it would be like, oh, we, as a kid, I remember being like, oh, I'm gonna have such clean, nice shoes. And then like we would go to work and da 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 and do the work like regular farmer labor, rock hauling, like whatever, you name it. A normal work job that a city worker would do to fix up the city. We were doing all of that. Plumbing, putting PVC piping, cactus, replanting, put like trees, bushes, making rock walls that would be like water barriers for road, whatever. Sand breaks, what do you call that? Fire breaks, where we were on the mountainsides of the whole property, which is already far away from, like, get in the hot sun, just like we getting rid of all the brush from all the mountains around. This took out, but this was a repetitive thing. So like coming the next morning and having to wear a nice shirt and your clean khaki, and you only get like a certain one or two of each of these things. You're lucky if you had one. I definitely knew that I said that like we're struggling. They just had, and I tried to keep my stuff sort of clean and I couldn't. And it would be like the next morning you go to your muster. So you have a muster, there's multiple musters, which is just where they have you gather. And it's not just a gathering. You line up in all your divisions of the org board. So I'm just, as I'm going on a roll and being crazy, there's so many little techniques um, of keeping the child in a constant repetitive, it's like it's a hypnosis, but you're physically doing this with the child for their whole life. So they're in this normal program of this is how I am, this is what I have to do, this is, so we do the same thing pretty much every single day uh, throughout 10 years for me. That was my thing. So I think I got a little sidetracked. So we get off the van. So yeah, no, that was right. So we're basically slowly getting groomed to what they're saying is we are the future executives for Scientology. and that we are at the int base, we're at the int ranch because our parents are executives, obviously, at the gold base or an RTC or CMO, whatever it is, and that when that we should be, like, hurrying up, learning how to be capable, not in children. We're not children, by the way, because L. Ron Hubbard, I know this has been talked about a lot, but L. Ron Hubbard does not, um, there's like no child, there's no such thing as children in Scientology. There's a way to treat somebody if they're being a child, which is sometimes used for younger people. But in Scientology, you're supposed to be as capable and be able to hold or do any job as any other Sea Org member, any age would be able to do. Same with an old person. So uh, basically, they just have no limit on what a child should be capable of and what they are forced to do anyways. There's no understanding of, "Oh, this is a child fun thing." There's none of that. There's no, "Oh, I'm gonna enjoy this small," well, there was, like, my teddy bear, and later on, as we're getting our uniforms nicer and more strict. And if you show up to muster with a stain on your shirt, or you didn't wear your Sea Org belt that is matched for the uniform, and you're wearing another, or you're wearing a different, unapproved a pair of khaki shorts that have a black line down them or something, like, you would get flunked. And in the beginning, so at the beginning, as they're enforcing all this, it gets, and I don't know, I always felt like, oh, maybe it was because we were getting older and more rebellious, but the truth is like, when kids are being surrounded in this type of environment, they literally are, they're gonna start to sense things aren't right, or they're gonna start rebelling, or whatever you wanna call it. They're gonna start acting out. They're gonna So anyways, multiple times there would be like, people, there would be 3 or 4 people either late for muster. They showed up 1 minute late. Sometimes it was 10 seconds late, and they were like, "You were late. You were not in line standing here. At attention." All military, we're being run and trained like military soldiers. There's no other explanation. There really is no other explanation. So we're little kids being run by like military soldiers, being told in our heads that we're not children, and that when we have the urge and we're being playful, some adult is gonna tell us, "Hey, knock it off, get your valance in, get you're having other fish to fry," or if you're crying, you're being banky. All these things are all language used to that L. Ron Hubbard has put out that mean a certain thing, and there's always something that you do when that language or that person is happening. Like if somebody's dramatizing or being banky, then you go lock them up in a closet. L. Ron Hubbard has like policies on how to deal with the governess. So he said, this is where I'm confused, and maybe you experts out there on your young L. Ron Hubbard policies on children care or whatever, maybe I know there are people out there who maybe can handle this, but how did he go? I don't understand this thing of, you're not a child, you're Satan just like anybody else in a small body, So, but then how does he have policy letters on how to treat children or how to spank and discipline children under the governess? Do you know what I mean? Like, if so then this is what I'm saying, where he literally he wrote it out saying, "There are no children. That's all just an illusion," and that if they're gonna act like children, then here are the policy letters on how to treat them, like, abusively. I don't get that. And maybe I'm right. Maybe, oh, if they're gonna act like children, then you can spank and discipline them however. He literally has a policy letter under the governor. It says, like, the governess or the governor may discipline or spank the children in any way he or she sees. That's almost verbatim, I bet you. I'll pull that up later as we move on with life. Okay, so I'm gonna kind of fast forward, um, just to finish my timeline on my life, and then I'm gonna go back, hopefully, if we have enough time, go back to, specific people and things in the ranch that were completely unacceptable and, um, how we can hopefully get help with exposing all. Okay, so at the ranch, after all this continuous hardship and abuse of a daily schedule of learning how to be the future executives of Scientology and not having any kind of childhood life, um, uh after a while, so I guess 10 years I was at the ranch. We're just gonna finish the schedule. 10 years, at the ranch, and then in 2000, they started shipping off basically sec checking, having all the children write up all their overts and withholds of any basically, Dave Miscavige was like, "I'm gonna give all the cadets an amnesty," and so they can and the adults. It was like a whole thing at the ranch. Everybody had to write up all their overtime withholds that they've ever written and, hope maybe, they were gonna be approved. But what was really happening is we were all getting all of our shit written down, all of our paperwork done, all of the things that they needed for us to join the Sea Org in Clearwater, or that's how it was for me. Other kids, if they weren't ethical enough or had other issues with maybe not being okay with being so far away from their parents, they didn't even give that option actually at all. They were just like, "If you're not okay, then you're gonna go see the ethics officer and figure out why you're being banky, why you're being emotionally," they call it HENR, why you're having emotion and human emotion and reaction when you're a SEER member on the job and the post you're doing. So they're not seeing you as a child. Even though this question was asked, it wasn't asked for the child. It was asked for, "Are you gonna be a problem later if we send you to Florida and your parents and your dad who, still legally have custody over you, are you gonna be okay with not seeing them, or are you gonna be a problem?" Like, and the thing is we didn't grow up with our parents. They weren't there every day. I don't have a home that I can say, "I'm going back home on Christmas." This is the thing, is always the way it is. There's no home. So this therapy, eventually I'll be able to show videos and pictures. That's another thing. If you guys have any pictures of the ranch, any footage of the Int Ranch cadets, any children from any of the years that the Int Ranch cadet was there, Int Ranch, base, the cadet org was there, please send them to me, email them to me, screenshot them, whatever you feel comfortable with, because this will really we'll start breaking down like, "Oh, here's a picture that doesn't look so bad," and we'll really talk about what's going on at the time and, you know, kinda opening it up for everybody. Okay, so 13 hold on. Okay, just making sure those OSA nuts aren't banging my door. Um, so where was I? Anybody? Email them to what email address, Laura? Just go to my website, guys, lara.fm, www.lara, L-A-R-A, there's no you and me, okay? Lara dot FM. You can email me, call the LFM hotline, you can, see the videos, you can be here on the SBTV, LFM TV channel, you can literally see the IG, the next live shows, tickets, stuff like that. So all that there. You can figure it out. Yep, thank you, Goldie. Okay, um, so we get shipped off from the ranch after major interrogation, so one of the things they did, which is why I'm asking for the pictures and everything, is they got rid of any anything that's confidential or could give away the ranch or the backgrounds or, uh just anything that legally would not be okay. We were told that the ranch was confidential, so that's why we needed to get rid of all of our pictures. So there was a bunch of pictures I had with friends that my kid friends that my mom would like, "Oh, we're gonna buy you these portable," you know, the pictures, the little disposable ones, and I was like, "Oh my god, I have this camera," and it would take 5 years to get it developed because I would hold on anyway, so there was all these pictures that I then had to get rid of, and some I was like, "Am I allowed to cut out the mountain in the back so I can have this one of me and my sister, like, on the horses?" Like, all of that was taken away. Anything that had obviously old execs, any pictures of me as a child dancing around for all the executives when we were doing, trying to literally have the kids in and come in and do all these shows for the executives, at Gold Base during Christmas time and Thanksgiving and whatever the fuck else they had to have us entertain them. Um Getting sidetracked. I just, like, there's so many things to write, there's so many I mean, I even jotting down just so I don't forget, but, that was one that I need to yeah, performances for Gold Base and stuff. So we go so after all this interrogation of getting rid of everything, of going through set checking, of going through writing books, like, stacks of overs and withholds of, like, getting to, like, I didn't brush my teeth on this day, or, like, it was like everything. Everybody wrote everything, and then they had Mark Yeager, Mike Rinder, Guillaume Lessev, Edient, I forget his name, I mean, not Edient, um, senior CS-int, Ray Midoff, they were all there in a row asking us these questions. So I got, Mark Yeager, I believe it was, and he was like, "Are you gonna be okay with" asking me a list of questions. Are you gonna be okay being separated with your family? Are you, do you like, first interrogate, but, like, they were just checking off, like, without telling us, "You guys are all being shipped off to go join the Sea Org." We had no idea what we were doing. We went through all the interrogation first, we went through all the approval, we knew something was happening, we didn't know certain groups were split up, this crowd is going here, this crowd is going, but we weren't told until the very end, like, this group is going to the Freelands, and then in my group, we were all in the dining room at the ranch, and it was like, "Oh my god, okay, my sister's here, so that's good, at least I'm in the same thing as her," but I felt awkward because I also was around other cadets that were a little more ethical upset than I was, so I felt like I was in the wrong room, but then I also felt like, "Oh, maybe they're trying to keep me and my sister together. I have no idea. This is all, but then they said, "You're going to flag," and a lot of people cried, and a lot of people were very upset, I remember Lauren Hollander being very upset wherever she was going. I remember there was just, like there was, like, some kids that were not cool, and then some of I guess I felt like, "Oh, okay, we're going to flag." Apparently, that was the better, the yeah, the Florida flag, yeah, wow. So, we were so excited, I guess, to go to flag, and then in that, while they were, like, having us they inspected our luggage and, like, got us there's so much details that went on, but they're like, "Okay, this bag is ready to go in the van, and then that cadet, you're going these 8 people are going to the airport." So we go to the airport, we fly to this was just we were all like it felt like we were finally going on a field trip as, like, a school, like a real school. We're all in our nice uniforms and new red shirts with the Sea Org logo and the khaki shorts and the whatever, all prepped and ready to go. Ethical and shiny and ready to be the future executives for Scientology. But we knew nothing about the outside world in terms of a public organization or how it functioned. We knew the org board, we knew everything. We knew who the posts were, what job handles what happens if you do this, what's oppressive acts. We knew everything about the physical structure and control and who you were, what you were allowed to do, who you were allowed to talk to, da da da. We never experienced actual public Scientologists receiving auditing and seeing them feel good and you know, whatever, and being in a hotel where we're pampering these people who are coming in to buy this auditing, and so we had to learn the outside structure. So it was like we were manipulated and brainwashed in this structure of the Int Ranch, and then once they got us to go, oh, you're going somewhere, we were like, oh my God, we're going somewhere new. This is exciting. Maybe we're going to join the studio. Okay, good. Like there's so much into that, but, like, there was a whole point where I was trying to go to gold forever, and it was the only thing where I was like, "Okay, if I can go to gold and be a musician," and the jive basses and everything were, like, playing a lot around that time, and I remember being like, "I could totally sing with the jive basses." I'm gonna when I get this, streaming down, I'm gonna pop up a bunch of these pictures, and you guys are gonna start seeing them. So that'll get really interesting as well. Um, but I got sidetracked, forgot where I was going there. Okay, anyways, back to the setup. So we go to Clearwater, Florida. Long story longer. I finished the EPF. There were a lot of us, like, it was kind of like we've read this ethics book a fucking million times. We all the courses and everything. So basically we were just doing the course for the first time as an actual course instead of just like being sent to ethics or you know, and having to read the liability condition or whatever a million times and do all the doubt formulas and whatever. And doing all this as a child, this is all happening. So all these things that you're learning and think like that you've learned about Scientology and how they interrogate people, we were doing this as kids. This was brushing our teeth in the morning. A lower condition was like, oh, okay. Oh, now I got to do a lower condition because, you know, whatever it like whatever it was for it, we were steward members still having to do the conditions and the policies and everything of L. Ron Hubbard. It made no difference whether we were children or not. Absolutely not. Okay, so then as I go to the EPF, which is the group that they had you start before you join, well, you're in the Sea Org, you sign your contract, and then it's like your boot camp group, I guess, so to speak. So we were already right. We've been boot camped our whole childhood. There were so many people that from the Enriched Cadet Org, people thought, oh my God, look at these bright kids. They know it, and they just came in and like taking over, and they're going to be our new what I don't know. That's what they thought. I mean, that's how it is. That's how it was. We knew everything. We knew we knew everything. There wasn't, and we just were a little grungy and a little white trashy, I guess, from being on a Hemet compound in the middle of nowhere on Indian reservation away from the world. There's no way we were even to like we couldn't, you don't just look over the view and see like the city lights and green lights and stoplights or whatever and see trucks going. There's no outside interaction. I was going to say walks because that's what we called. Anytime somebody, a non-Scientologist and not even a non-Scientologist, just not a Sea Org member would come onto the property, like let's say the gas company guy or the Frito truck that later on when we got a canteen, we would spend our $7 paychecks to buy Fritos. And so the Frito guy truck, they would smell like perfume. And we weren't allowed to have perfume. You can't have any smells. So you could smell them coming literally through the front gate 2 miles away. You'd be like, oh, there's that truck. Or you would hear sounds. So all these things were just like, are just like little things, like even the gas company guy, you'd come in with the propane and you'd smell that propane and the mixture of his strong. Yeah. So I mean, I know there are many cadets right now going, yep. Oh yeah. There was actually one time I think it was just like me, Christina. I don't know if I don't have no idea who it was, just some other out ethics cadets, obviously, if they're hanging out with me. And we were talking to the gas man and kind of like, you know, he was kind of like, oh, hey, aren't you kids supposed to be doing something? I think we were just on our lunch break and we were bored or something. I don't know. So finally it was like, we were like, no, it was like our PE time or something. And so anyways, really bad. We were just being innocent, being like, oh my God, let's just go. Maybe he can give us a fun ride on the back of the truck. So yeah, that got really weird because the guy was like, oh, you guys, like, we kept demanding, no, we'll ride on the back of the truck to the gate, just to the gate. And so he was like, "Okay, you guys are," so he was being nice, like, "Okay," and I don't know. I mean, maybe he wasn't being nice, like, maybe obviously a gas guy probably shouldn't be, like, giving rides to kids on the back of the truck. I don't know. But it was on the property. Anyways, he we got in so much trouble, and that I think that gas guy, he never came back, so I don't know if he got fired or what, but he just dropped out the game. We're like, "Yes!" And we jumped out and then went back to go play sports and stuff on, or not sports, whatever the assigned, activity was to do for the 30 minutes. So then we ended up in ethics and doing lower conditions for that because we were on a truck trying to blow with a WOG, uh, how much LPR that caused to have children, and so we get the bad effect of doing something that we should know better, that we're doing as kids, that we should know better because we're adults, technically. So that happened a lot. Like, that gets me right in my throat a lot because this is why I was always considered like a bad cadet. That one's for Catherine. Go read her book if you haven't. I'm still in the middle of it. I'm still getting through it, but I can't because I'm still processing my own shit. Anywho, I was always a bad cadet. Like, so this is why I was shocked when I was in the room of people that looked like, oh, these are all ethical people. And I thought, oh, the only reason I'm going to flag is because uh, my sister. By this time, my brother had already gone to Gold Base years before, and all of this was happening. But he also definitely was still part of the ranch craziness and abuses. Um, so yeah, bad cadet, always in trouble. So I carried that with me all the time. I always thought, and so going to flag, I felt like, oh my God, um, I don't know, I felt like, look, I felt free kind of because I was like, "Oh, wow, like, we're wearing uniforms now, we're not just wearing our red khaki pants and all this, we're wearing, like, legit uniforms of the colors of each division, and we're in this division now." And so my first job when I finished this EPF really quickly, um, went to, they put me as a MAA, an ethics MAA right away, which I was actually wearing a similar color to this, more yellow because they don't wanna confuse the SP colors, you know what I mean? The goldenrod. Um, so oh, yeah, so I was an ethics MAA, which I knew how to run musters. So we go in and we're there with our clipboard, and I'm just already like taking the report. So the same thing they do for the kids lining up in their divisions and in their musters. And most of the time, literally report. Is everybody here? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Everybody calls everybody sir if they're above you, whether you're female, child, man, old person, sick, a fucking sometimes a dog. You gotta call Tom Cruise sir if you're in the Sea Org. Anywho, so everybody calls everybody sir. So this your whole life through your life, the non-child is that we already know we know the routines of musters. We know how to report. We know what's backflash. We know what's not okay. We know, what the schedule is. We know not to be late. We know what happens when somebody goes out 2D and who to report it to and who not to say if you want to leave. And, we know all this. We were drilled like little soldiers our whole childhood. That wasn't a childhood just to be doing this thing that we were now doing in the organization. So I start off being the MAA. I go on, they put me as the HCO MAA, which is the master at arms. I think I was 14 years old, and I'm taking reports of, writing programs, writing the things that I would have done on me from older, not so older, even just like 5-year older cadets giving me ethics programs about not doing something I should have done at the ranch when I was like 8 years old or whatever the whole time. So I'm now doing this for older people and these like, you know, other Sea Org members. So I feel like official. I'm feeling like, oh my God, you know, I'm on my way up. If I do this, I can go up and maybe I'll go and maybe I can go to, you know, go get my production record at Flag. I can now learn the public, you know, world and the Sea Org. And then I can, and I was thinking, am I going to go back to gold? I was thinking like, I know I wasn't aware that I was thinking this, but I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to gold base because I just kept remembering it being like a jail and the camera system and at least in Florida and Clearwater I could walk around and I could maybe go to Starbucks and get my half pay of a fucking coffee or whatever it was, chocolate frappuccino. It just felt like more free. I already felt this like, ooh, sort of resistance of since now that I'm here in this Flag Florida world, it would feel not so fun to go be back in this confined, high intense, really needed, but high intense executive positions or whatever. The thing with the idea for me was like, oh, okay, if I can do any post, if I just do if I'm doing the MA job and then I get promoted to CMO and then and then eventually I can go to RTC, maybe I'll have some leeway of what I want to do. Like maybe I can sing a little and have a little bit of more freedom of I don't know. I guess my mind was just thinking like if I'm higher up, I'll be closer to the person who will know that if look, Megs is doing a great job. She deserves her libs day off. Or, you know, I would be able, I just feel like the higher up, if you're working for the leader, Dave Miscavige, then hey, you probably could, it looked fun. It looked like they're doing really well. They get fed really well. We would bring them insane. Anyway, so I'll get to that. But so I was a MAA in HBO at FSO in 2000, I think it was, or yeah, 2001. And then they promoted me to CMO CW. And then I replaced Jenna Miscavige and Desiree Jakes, who were programs operators. They were flag crew programs operators who were in ethics trouble. And obviously Jenna was leaving or whatever the fuck was going on. She was trying multiple times. And she was in interrogation. She was constantly in sex checking. And so they were like, it looks like you're going to be the new flag crew programs operator. So during this time and all this shit happening, at the same time, I might be mixing up some of the dates or years, but anyways, I was put on a special project when I was in CMO to run for the exec. They were like, you're going to be the runner for Mark Yeager, Marty Rathman, Mike Rinder, Guillaume Lesev, definitely Dave Miscavige. He's number one priority. If any of his communicators or assistants asked me for anything, I would fucking run and get it, and it didn't matter. Stapler, go get that. And all this was happening during the Lisa McPherson case. I don't know if you guys know about this, but look, I'm sure a lot of you do. In fact, I'm sure a lot of you were in the Sea Org during this time. But there was a woman named Lisa McPherson who was going through godless hours of interrogation, auditing, and basically was having, I think, like a psychotic breakdown. Ended up losing her mind and having a blood clot and dying in the Fort Harrison Hotel. And it was a whole lawsuit against Scientology for being responsible for her murder. During this time, I was literally covering up, I was shredding all these papers that were from the lawsuits. And so I'm here being their runner and messenger, doing whatever they're telling me to do because they can trust me. I'm young, I'm spidey, I got this energy, you know. And Mike Rinder had known me. I mean, doesn't know, you know, there's no like, you're not allowed to have a connection as a child. They're like, it's like you're trying, you can have a little bit. It was kind of like, oh yeah, he knew like, oh, you're Diane and Phil Anderson's daughter. Okay. And he was like, you know, my son, Ben. Yeah. So there was some little connection of that as well. And the fact that Mark Yeager was the one who did my, you know, like, do you want to, like, are you ready to basically be shipped off? and go join the Sea Org. What are your intentions?" So I was running for all them. So they all knew me sort of in this way, like, so and also at this time, while I was in CMO, one of my favorite people, still to this humanly day, Valerie Haney, who is also on the Aftermath. She's a gorgeous babe who, escaped basically went in the trunk of a car from Gold, where she eventually got promoted to Gold, but that's a whole 'nother story. You can go find that out on her links and channels. Um, but she was also in CMO. She was in RTC. She was an art. She was in CMO when I was with her, and then as I was on this position, she had got promoted from CMO CW to RTC as like an assistant, as one of the one of the stewards or the assistants for Dave Miscavige. So me and Valerie at that time had become close in CMO before she got promoted, and there was a time even in that moment when I was like, "Oh, you're going to RTC," and she was like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh," I accidentally said this, and she didn't tell me this until later, that I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Oh, you're gonna go to Gold? Well, then I probably won't ever see you again." And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Oh, well, no, it's just really busy up there, and they just like it's really like," whatever I said, she was like, "Oh." And then later when she was at Gold and all this was happening, she was like, "Oh my fucking God." Like, and she had then met my mom, who's still at Gold, doing the same job under David Miscavige's freaking hypnotic fucking guidance. Like, here, do this, here, read this, what Diana do, where she's constantly editing for the next event. Record this SP doing this, record your daughter, don't record it, give it to me directly, don't watch it. So she's literally under, and then he manipulates her with, "Oh, here's amazing cameras, or here's your new gift," or whatever the heck. Whatever manipulative things he can throw at her to keep her in the position she's in, to not question my dad not being there with her, or her getting distracted by my dad wanting to be with her. But then he's like, "Oh, maybe I should leave because we're not going to be together." All this crazy shit. He's watching. He has my mom under his fucking micro, what do you call it, looking glass that's like this big. So it's fucked. It's really hard for me. So Valerie actually told me a lot of, how what the level of intensity while she was up there was, and that she did talk to my mom. And during that time when I was starting to come out and talk or whatever, she had told her like, "Oh my God, I love your daughter. She's fucking amazing." And she was like, "Oh yeah, she's she's in a little, ethics trouble or something like that." I think I was leaving the Sea Org at that. And so, yeah, so that was a cute little side thing, with Valerie and all that. But, so yeah, I was really close with her, and so then when she was running I was running for the execs during this Lisa McPherson case, and during the same time, there was some big event happening that I also had to be around the Shrine Auditorium and running for them. "Oh, go to the green room and get this." "Yes, sir." Like, you know, whatever it was, "Go get this." "Go." "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." From any of the execs, but obviously, if it was David Savage, do that first. Um, this was a really fucked up thing, I have to say this. I mean, there's so many things that happened while I was, being the observer, watching, and being told to, like, go and do things, but David Miscavige was yelling at Guillaume Lesèvre in the backstage of the event, as he normally does. And I just couldn't believe it, but I also was like, "Oh, I should be used to this because of all the ranch abuse and how normal it seemed." It was just like, "Well, he's getting a black eye because that's part of the policy, if he's doing something out ethics, he must be doing something out ethics for David Miscavige, Mr. Miscavige, to be telling him, all this kind of mean, horrible stuff, like, 'Your fucking accent, nobody can understand you, get your script right, you sound like a fucking idiot," because he has a really strong accent, and so he looks at me and he was like, "Do you know how to method 9 or method 7?" Whatever it was, I think it's method 7. "Do you know how to method 7?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And he was like, "Method 7 him right now on his speech." So I had to go back in the green room. I had to go to the back of the green room with Guillaume Lesèvre and literally this little 14-year-old M9ing him, M7ing him, saying like that. Basically, it's basically, I don't know if you guys know what that is. you're reading the script, so I have a copy of his script that he's about to go on stage after the leader is done. I can hear David Miscavige talking while I'm, like, we're practicing with Joan Lisette. So he's sitting there, we both have 2 transcripts, and he has to read it verbatim, and he has to read it and if he messes up on a word in L. Ron Hubbard's cuckoo gaga policies, it's because he has a word or something he doesn't understand. So he has to go back, find the word, look it up, do 10,000 sentences. He has to do all these things of exactly how L. Ron Hubbard says it. You have to look up a word. Look up a word in a dictionary. That's what I mean by that. That's probably not a thing. Look it up. Look it up on Google. Anyway, so it was like, look it up. Okay, we have to look up this word, do all these find the derivation, where did it come from, make sentences, and then go back to the word and reread it again and make sure he didn't mess it up. And I had to help him say things properly with his accent, which as my little creative mind artist, I'm like, I was able to like really almost memorize his speech and the way he talks. Anywho, so that was pretty crazy. He seemed like such a sweet guy, and, yeah, I saw a lot of that. That was just one thing where I just was, like, so close to one of these high top executives of Scientology, yet I felt like I was just so shocked how David was Mr. Savage at the time, was treating but also I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna help him get through this so he can really go into a good speech." So I guess I did that, and hopefully he didn't get fucking eliminated after again. But anywho, so there's, like, a lot of things, like, why was I doing that at 14? Because they knew I could. They knew exactly that I knew how to do it all. It's like, they knew, "Oh, she's from the internet, she can do it. Oh, she's in CMO, she's gonna oh, she'll be our runner. She'll sh you know, Megan can do anything. Send Megan," you know? Um so I did that. I was doing that. So during that whole time anyway, so then after the lawsuit ended by the way, the person, the CS, the senior CS, what's his name? Uh, Alon Kardazinski. The senior CS on that case was sent not to the RPF because David Miscavige didn't want legally that he was sent to the RPF, which would have shown that he had done something wrong in the CSing of her case, so he was like, "You're not going to the RPF," when in fact, David Miscavige was the one running her case, not 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 Alon Kardazinski was following what David Miscavige basically was telling him to do about this person. Anywho, he didn't David Miscavige sent him to the laundry at the hacienda, which is where all the berthing is for all the SEER members in Clearwater, and he was ironing he was the high up amazing CS. So I mean, I'm not saying that in reality, not it wasn't amazing, but he was very looked up to. A lot of auditors really respected him. He seemed like he actually was doing a really good job as a CS anyway. Um, and he was totally taken off the job and then was put as full like laundry for all the auditors were made basically as an insult. Dave Miscavige put it, "You're not going to the RPF. You're gonna have these like you're gonna be stuck in this laundromat until I can figure out what to do with you because you created this whole lawsuit, and we can't put you on the RPF to get your shit together because that would mean that we are admitting we did something wrong." Anywho, so after that all settled down, uh I was then put back, "Okay, you can go back to your flag crew programs operator job," which to me I look great right now, guys. Turn off the lights. Sorry, guys. Okay, so they said, so the lawsuit ended, whatever deal they closed, I'm sure. I don't know, I should actually talk to Mike Rinder if he's even allowed to say anything about that. When it ended, they put me back on as the flag crew programs operator, and that means basically what I was doing as a flag crew programs operator, SEMO messenger, was going to the AOLA or sorry, AO Advanced Organization in Clearwater, where people are doing their OT 6 and 7s and whatevers, and, I would be writing programs for the restaurants and the places where they go and buy all their food. So not only are these public, like, already spending a zillion dollars on the bridge and not going anywhere with it, but they're also having to pay for the restaurant food and their hotels in there and everything. It's not just they're paying for the auditing, they're paying for a whole package in this luxury hotel that they call an organization or a church. It's literally like, wake up, the facts are the facts. So I'm writing programs for these organization restaurants, like, to get their kitchen and shit together because and make it run, function, and better. And on this path, there's this guy, Tiziano Lugli, I'm sure y'all have heard of him. He's like this to me, he was like at the time, I'm 15 or whatever, 15 and 6, the years are going by, I'm like 15, maybe yeah, I think I was like 15 or 16. And I see this Italian, kinda older but young guy playing piano in the sandcastle, just like, "Who is this guy? Oh my god, he's playing music, and he's got, like, a piercing, and he's so suave," and I was just like, immediate crush, and I didn't but I was also and then boom, there goes the flirting. He sees I've got this he knows what CMO is or whatever, right? He's this like, Italian whatever. So the receptionist who's, some other I forget her name, I wanna say Mariah? If it's not Mariah, it was this other chick. I'll just have to go back and get the KR whenever I do get it again. But she wrote a freaking report on me. This older woman, was probably jealous that this Italian guy was flirting with me and I'm this higher position. And, he just he wrote this report like, uh, uh, like, CMO, to RTC reps at the AO. It was like it went they he CC'd fucking basically the whole world. So I was like, "Oh my god." And it was just she's flirting with this public, and she's supposed to be running a program, whatever. It was like anyway, so I get in trouble. I get pulled in by the INR of CMO, and she was like, "What the fuck is this?" and slams this report, this knowledge report, uh, in front of me, and I'm reading it, and my heart starts racing like, "Oh my god." At first I was kinda like, "Well, it was just flirting, but it is with a public," and that is, like, so bad, like, so not okay. You're not as a steward member minus the fact that I'm 15 flirting with somebody who's clearly older. Their threat was probably, "Oh, she's flirting," she was flirting with this why I got in so much trouble is because I was flirting with somebody who's older than me, but I don't understand that. In my brain, I'm just going, "Yeah, but it's just a body." I mean, like, hello, I'm obviously mature enough to flirt with him. And then I was also thinking, like, I'm also a SEAL member, and I'm like, maybe I'll get him to join the SEAL. So, so anyways, I get slammed this report, and I get told, uh, "You're you're getting taken off post." Yeah, you're going it was like a big deal. I got demoted. I got demoted and kicked out of CMO and was sent to go clean fucking dishes in the galley of like, that the galley in the area that the galley is where everybody eats and all that, the whole CB area. I was sent to go wash dishes in the organization for the lower organization that I was writing programs for. So it was a really big, um, slap in the face for me. I felt so pissed and felt so betrayed, like, okay, I didn't do if to me, in my innocence, I felt like it wasn't like I hadn't even, like, sexually, physically done anything with this human. I was just really attracted to him, and I was giddy and obviously so distracted, but I still felt like I hadn't like, it wasn't that bad, and if it was that bad, I was like, "You guys could've" you know, I've done so much, I just did all this I just felt like I I don't know. I felt so betrayed that once I got demoted and put in that, I kind of started, um, I guess you can call it rebelling, but I started to see that I was like, "I don't wanna go up higher anymore." I just went up and ran for the leader and all the execs during that time, and it was fun and exciting, but I'm not gonna do that anymore. Like, I'm back doing my post, and now I'm demoted, and I was like, "I don't really wanna go to gold because I know how that is, and I would rather just be with all these execs on the road, kinda like being their little messenger person." It was fun, and it was intense, there was always something to do, "Shred this, bring this, go get Dave Mr. Miscavige just called you. Go check out his fancy new black tight uniform and let him know what you think." It was just like random demands, "Go do this." So it went from like, "Ooh, I felt so needed and appreciated," and, "Ooh, maybe I'm closer to the step of maybe doing the job or the post that I wanted." And so when I got demoted, I was so fucking just like, "Fuck you." Why would you demote me all the way? Why don't you just put me on the SEMO EPF or something? I don't know why that made me so upset, but I was so pissed. So I basically I started being sort of kind of dismissive and not care to the CMO messengers. I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And so I don't know, the INR kind of was like, "Uh-oh, she's getting a little like," so they were like, "It seems like she's had enough. We will just have her, oh, baby girl, we will have her go do the EPF." So they called it the EPF. What did they call it when we went back to it? As like a bad thing. It was some rehabilitation, but not the RPF. It wasn't the RPF. It was just like you're redoing the EPF. Like you're rejoining from the beginning. Like you're gonna anyways. So, but I knew I was like, okay, fine, whatever. At least I can just for me, I felt like, okay, well, they'll just put me on maybe I'll just be on a regular public job and that will be fun. Like I just thought like, okay, I maybe, I'll go to the EPF and just do that and then I'll be put on a cool different post and maybe I'll find like a girlfriend. I mean, a boyfriend. Like I was like, maybe they'll allow me to be like, I'll be able to whatever. You know what I mean? Like I just felt like, oh, maybe I'll have more excitement if I'm just on a regular job and maybe I'll have fun around here instead of trying to go to gold and be this musician or a singer or an entertainer or be helpful for the leader. And in that way, I was like, maybe I'll just stay here in Florida and be on a lower level post. Like that's what I thought would be better. Okay, so I'm kind of going into long stories, so I'm gonna try to keep myself aligned. So yeah, so then from the EPF, I thought, okay, I'll get through the EPF and do my lower conditions and all this bullshit for the millionth time and amends and whatever. I'm keeping notes. Um, and and then they'll put me on a cool post. Like maybe I don't know. I didn't care. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I don't really want to be an MA, but I don't think they're gonna put me as an MA from CMO. I was like, I thought they were just gonna put me on an HTC job or something. Then they tell me I'm going to be the the Fort Harrison public areas cleaner. So even though that sounded, I was again, are you fucking kidding me? You're putting me as a cleaner in the lobby of the public areas, and they're like, we're reestablishing the Fort Harrison, and they had me wearing this new like green sort of old fashioned, really scratchy, fucking gross uniform, walking around wiping all the gold bars with like I mean, I had a checklist every day of everything. Clean the toilets, restock the tampon machines, wipe the fucking gold bars with your, um, with the oil, and then wipe. And so anyways, I couldn't believe I was like, I'm going to be. I was just kind of going with the steps. Like this is so fucked up. I can't believe they're doing this to me. I can't believe they're putting me on as a cleaner. Like I could be so much more valuable. I was just so like whatever. Category B, correct. Cat B. You're going to Cat B RPEPF. Catherine B. Spoon. Just kidding. No, they did call it Category B. So it's the EPF, but they called it Category B, meaning probably like, yeah, she's not in the A, she's in the B category. She's retreading. Anyway, so I was so mad and I was just like, they put me in the cleaner, da da da. So then I start doing it. So I kept holding on to this idea. Okay, it doesn't matter what job they give me or post because at least I'll be able to just report my stats, get them up, and go take libs. I was just like, oh, maybe I'll be able to take a day off. Like, there was something with that, and, like, maybe I'll find a boyfriend or somebody, I can flirt with somebody cute and, like, I can get married and probably have sex finally or whatever. Like, I'm 15, 16. I'm like, you know, yeah, no, nobody knows what the fuck is going on in a 15, 16-year-old's head who is trapped in Scientology's fucking cult Sea Org her whole life. So I was just hoping that, okay, I'm just gonna do the job. Maybe they'll promote me because 'cause they'll just be like, "Why did we put her as a cleaner? She's so good at that, and now she's not like, she just has all these days off." But no, I started getting days off, and it was fun, but during those days off and the libs, me and my friend Alina, for example, Alina Huber, would go down to the beach on the trolley. Actually, I think this time we did this, it was after we got our days off, and then we started realizing, like, "Oh, we could just, like, do this during study time and nobody would know because nobody checks the roll calls of the people who are, like, only yeah, anyway, so we just knew, and then we started taking the trolley down after or right during our lunchtime and going and just hanging down by the beach and by the water. We'd, like, change our shirt. We just had these weird, not uniform. They were trying to make you look like hotel staff. So we would just change our shirt to like a black t-shirt or something or whatever it was, and it would just look like normal and like have our Converse or whatever it was. And so we'd be wearing city clothes all of a sudden and not stand out like two Sea Org members, two young Sea Org members, like enjoying the fucking beach away from their cult. And one of those times, Alina Huber got I wonder if she still has this, but she got a butterfly tattoo. And I just thought, "Oh God." I just couldn't believe it. We're gonna get in so much trouble, but I'm not gonna say anything, so this is fine. Anywho, so yeah. Okay, moving along. So as I'm going to study sometimes in the afternoon and then cleaning and then getting my stats up, um, so that I can have lids. I start also like kind of liking the outside world, like seeing like, oh, I can kind of go to Starbucks here and this, and there was some young public at the time that would see me cleaning in the public areas, like Larissa. Um, uh, my God, there were so many people. Redmond, Nick Lister. There was so many people at like young Scientology kids from public. They weren't in the Sea Org. They were definitely being recruited nonstop. Like, you need to join the Sea Org every single time they were there. But so I would get to know them because I guess I was kind of young and whatever. And I also was probably drawn toward them being like fun and, oh, they're going to, maybe I could just do Scientology and I could do my fun singing career and like, maybe do more for Scientology if I was doing that, like than, scrubbing toilets and making everybody's seat better when they take a shit after their weird fucking forced foods of eating auditing session, like insane, random whatevers. Everybody knows what I'm talking about there. I'm getting sneak peeks of comments and stuff. I appreciate it, guys. I'll scroll through them all, and Goldie will help me at the end. But we got a little bit more, so we're going through this timeline, and we're almost done. So coming down. So yeah, I'm starting to get more into the outside world stuff. Like I just like even just to go down on the beach and to know, oh, I can take the trolley and go there. I went a few times by myself without Alina and without Susie Flood or somebody else who I was sneaking off with. And so I started like just feeling the outside world like that, and then coming back and like knowing who I can get away with a few things. And I don't know, just all that. So there were certain things where I was like, I was just sick of doing my job. I was sick of cleaning and stuff, and I started, getting sidetracked like this. And eventually I told the flag crew MAA, Star, forget her last name, Star, that I was like, I wrote, like I said, I had like wrote, I was like, oh, I need to talk to you privately. And I was like, okay, I don't want to be here. Like, I was like, I want to do the steps to rat out properly. I was like, but I know I'm not allowed to talk about it to anybody, so I'm just talking about it to you." And her response was kinda like, "Okay, well, we'll get you started on the program to go," like, you know, and, nothing was really happening, like, it was like I would and so she was like, "You're gonna stay on post until 'cause you can't," she was like, "You're not allowed to just walk off post. Hat's not wearing, you're gonna be assigned treason, blah, blah," like, all this stuff, and I was kinda like, "But if I'm not on post, then I mean, if I'm on post, then I'm not doing anything to leave. You guys are just gonna keep relying on me being here." And it was a long thing, and it was a drawn out thing, and eventually, it was like nothing was happening, so I started, like, doing things like going off to the beach and not caring and being like they would just be like, "Where were you?" I'd be like, "Oh, at the beach," and they'd be like, "Okay, you're being pulled off." So they pulled me off, and they said, "You're going to the hacienda, you know, to come off post and whatever." Get so I was on Rattle Lines. For some reason after that, like, I thought, "Oh, maybe they'll put me on a different position or something," or I don't know. You know what did it? I was trying to leave, and my brother wrote me they had my brother write me a letter, which later I found out he was only writing this to me so that he could leave. He was already trying to leave Gold Base at the time, and I had no idea, and they were obviously not telling me that, and one of the things they said is, "Well, you can try to, you know, get your sister to stay, then that might be, you know, more ethical for you to leave, like, then we would be more okay, whatever." So he wrote me this letter trying to get me to stay, and it worked. I was like, "Oh my god, my brother's asking me to stay," and it was just, like, so, like, "Oh, okay, fine." So I felt so good, like, "Fine, I'll stay," and I thought my brother would have a response like or my mom's like, "You know, we're so proud of you." Um and then I also thought that they were gonna put me on a different position, because why would they put me on the same I don't know. Anyways, so I go back to the EPF, because that's what you do after you wanna leave, and then you decide, "Okay, fine, I'll stay." They rehabilitate you or revitalize you, um, and then they put you back on the EPF to, you know, re restart your brainwashing again. Um, so then they put me where was it? Oh, so I went back to the EPF because I felt bad, and then I stayed. Then they put me at the AO. They put me at the advanced organization as a public areas cleaner again. They were saying, "Per the policy, if you didn't finish your job correctly or whatever, you have to go back on the post, the original post or whatever it was, and do it correctly and get a production record or something on that." Such bullshit. They were just opening up the advanced organization, and they needed public areas cleaners, and they needed all the other people were training to be auditors, literally. So they just needed physical people that can physically do the work. And so they were just pulling people out of the, EPF, whoever was finishing, and putting them on these opening, you know, advanced org or whatever. So they needed to be fully had, and all these people need to be have, like, all these positions. The reception needed to be full and, like, whatever before they can, like, open it. So, as part of that opening, I was put as the AO public areas cleaner. So I just kind of at that point I did the AO because my sister worked at the AO, so that was really fun. She was a call-in. She was, like, in call-in the call-in unit. Calling at the call-in unit. I used to joke around with her about that. She would be like, "Shut up." Um Anywho, so it was fun. I just felt like, oh, I can Desiree Jakes, who I was in CMO with, finally also decided to stay, and she was put at the Sandcastle, like, the outside pool bar where she would make smoothies and stuff for, like, all the public coming out on their lunch breaks and whatever, and so we were really close, and she would always be making smoothies and random shit for me. I would be, like, snagging and same my sister, they would all go down and get smoothies from there. We were all, like, really friends. So it was, like, a cool little like, it felt closer. I was kinda used to the cleaning and all that, and then I just felt like after a while, there were some people leaving too. I remember being like, "Oh, they're leaving. They're on Rata lines," or I think it was Susie and Andrew, my good friends Susie Flood and Anderly Thompson. They were on Rata lines, and that for me was I was kinda like, I don't I started going out ethics again as a cleaner at AO, just kind of, like, not really doing the job or, like, going, you know, like, wherever, just, like, not going to study, and I had these 2 seniors, who were always like, "What are you doing?" Kinda checking on me, and it was just annoying. So eventually, I was just like, "I don't wanna be here, I wanna leave." Like, I wanna leave again, so I went back and told Star the same thing. Anyways, long story I tried to leave, like, 3 times, and finally, the last time, I was like oh, I had a big crush on Mario Morales. He was, like, this nut Spanish Latin guy, whatever, and, and he was on Reddit lines, and I just thought, like, "Oh, they Susie Flood was on Reddit lines too," so during the time that we were almost, like, both getting it was fun to be on Ride Lines together because we would be in the same dorm. They'd have the out at the flat out people, like, together and away from everybody. So, actually, me and Susie and Sabrina and all sorts of whoever's were leaving, we would be hanging out a lot. Um, anywho, so there was a time where I was like, "This time I am not leaving." I was like, "You" they were opening up Tampa, Oregon, Ybor City or whatever, and, I was like, This time I'm leaving. I'm not gonna go back. I'm not listening to my brother write a freaking letter. I'm not" oh, that was another thing. As I was leaving, I found out when they had put me on the post of cleaner and AO, I found out, that my brother left the Sea Org. I was like, "What?" So, then when I made my decision then to leave, I was like, "I'm not going back. My brother can't write me a letter." I was like, "Oh, Susie was sent to the RPF. She chose to do the RPF," or they said, like, "Okay, if you stay, try to do the RPF, and if you still wanna leave, then you can leave." I couldn't believe it. I was like, "No, they got her." I'm sure they were trying to have me "Hey, guys, chill." I'm sure they were trying to have me believe that she chose to do the RPF and then would try to get me to go on the RPF, and I was like, "I am never going on the RPF." That shit was happening at the Int Ranch when I was a child, and that was crazy to me to see all these they had the RPF, by the way, at the Int Ranch base, the gold RPF. I would see the execs and people coming off post and going to the ranch and being put on the RPF, and I would see them in freaking RPF uniform running around the Int Ranch that were just once on very high executive positions at the Gold Base. So, I was like, "I'm not going to the RPF." I knew what that was all about. Nope. And I was like and I promised myself, I was like, "You're gonna leave, and if you don't like it when you leave, and it is as crazy and it is fucked up and bad, then you can come back. You know that there's always a way that you can do your liability condition and da, 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 and then come back. So don't" I was like, I just kept telling myself, "Don't" even when I got approved to leave, I was afraid to leave. I was kinda like, "Okay, here I am on my own. I'm going to the LA airport to meet my mom in Los Angeles when I land," like, so did not have any idea what I was gonna do in life itself, but how life worked or anything. I was like yeah. Completely going out on that, on nothing. So eventually they did let me leave after a bunch of stuff happened in between all that. Um, they sent me with $300, uh, and a plane ticket to the LAX airport, and Star, the INR, went with me in the van, brought me to 'cause I'm a minor oh, by the way, I'm 17-ish at this time, and, I had finished my sec check, I had done everything, and I was, quote, unquote, "waiting for approval," but what that meant is that they didn't know where to put me. They were just like, "Her whole family's in Scientology or in the Sea Org, they're executives in the Sea Org, how are we just gonna let her leave? Like, you know, this is gonna pull Diane and Phil off their post, etcetera." Like, it was already so much, and it was already distracting my mom a lot, I could tell, because, basically, they were just saying, like, if I get another report of course, they gave me a non-interpolation order. So, they were saying, like, if I get another report, then I'm gonna get whatever. I told them I just started walking. I left the QI, they had me there, I just started walking to the movies, and the security would be like, "Megan," it was like this Russian security guard, Vladimir, and, yelling at me, trying to get me back, and eventually I was like, "No." I was like and then I would just be like, "Don't touch me." There were certain things I started to realize, like, "You can't touch me." Like, I'm older. I don't know, I felt older. Like, I'm 17 but at the same time, I still felt young because they were threatening me with being declared, but they were saying, "The only reason we're not declaring you is because your mom and dad are executives of Scientology, and they were like, they were like, "You're a minor." So that and I was like, "Okay." Spencer, this gross security guard, he's so disgusting. Not well, Spencer was gross, but Marlon Holt, sorry, Marlon Holt. Marlon Holt, you're just an out ethics individual. You just can't you just have to do something to interrogate people, don't you? Anywho, he's so fucking gross. Um, he basically told me, "The only reason we're not declaring you or haven't declared you is because you're a minor," and I was like, "What does that mean?" And he was like, "Basically, legally, your mom, who's an executive, has responsibility of you." And so I kind of was like relieved, like, "Oh, good, they can't declare me. That means I can fucking make sure I definitely" anyway, so once they realized that, and I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna do whatever I want." They did send me off, to LA because I was a bad influence on other people. They started seeing me like, "Why is Megan just doing her own schedule and walking to the movies and doing whatever the fuck she wants?" And so other people started to go on route outlines just because of that, and so they were like, "We need to get her out of here." So, long story longer, I take the flight with the $300, Star drops me off the airport, in Tampa or whatever, and then I get on I really don't I don't remember any of that. I just remember being, like, in the van for a little, then I remember being like, "Okay, okay, here's the thing, okay, there's my gate," and getting there, and then, like, seeing Star go, "Okay, I'll text you," or not text, I'll, give me a call when you're with your basically whatever. She was like, "Your mom will tell me, like, at this point, you just go." So, I get on the plane, I don't know what's going through I just remember being like, "I am really leaving, like, I'm out." So, but in my head, you're still 100% a freaking Scientologist. You just don't realize it because you think you're the worst person on the planet for leaving and everybody's mad at you. Like, your family's mad at you, all the friends and the org that I've known my whole life as being any kind of child or anything, they're all mad at me. They can't talk to me. I'm not allowed to tell them I'm leaving. Everybody has their there's no communication. So I just feel like I'm coming literally, you're walking out into this new life, and you just go I'm just going with the flow, and immediately I land when I land, I'm, like, going and I guess I knew, like, okay, I'm gonna be meeting my mom. My mom will meet me at the airport. I was kinda like, "Okay." Well, that felt fine because I thought, "Oh, she'll just find me if I get lost." In my mind, I just thought, "Oh, I was still kinda maybe relying on my mom a little bit, or maybe now that I'm not in the Sea Org, she's gonna have to be my mom a little bit." I don't know. So I get there, and I'm going to the baggage thing, and I see, "Hi!" The biggest smile. My mom was there, and she's like, "Honey." And I thought she was gonna be mad at me. So that was a weird thing. So when I went there, I hugged her, and then she kind of was like, "Okay, so we're gonna get" she was like, "How are you?" Like, kinda tried to just be happy and theta about it and not talk about anything negative. And then right, as she's starting to get a little more like, "Okay, where's your suitcase in the bag?" She was like, "Oh, Taryn Rinder? She's just with us, to make sure everything runs smoothly and goes well." And I was just kinda like, "Oh, hi." And I'm nice because I have known Taryn Rinder, and I know her brother, um, her brother, Benjamin Rinder. And I was just kinda like, "Oh, wait, Taryn Rinder was in the chaplain's office, I guess, at Gold, but really meant that she was, like, the buddy to make sure people didn't blow. She was the one who made sure that I didn't interbulate my mom or my mom didn't get too interbulated, etc. Like, so she was just there to keep an eye on everything, which was really fucking weird. And Taryn Rinder and herself is just a whole nother goddamn ball game. But anywho, so that was really, I was like, oh, she has to be sort of professional now. She can't, Taryn Rinder was trying to be kind of nice, at the time, uh, and trying to pretend that she was just there to make sure everything was good. Yeah, so thank you. She's very fucking covert, if you want to. Anywho, so then I go in this random van. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm not sure what we're doing. My mom has told me nothing. I don't know anything. I get into this little minivan, and it's a Sea Org member driving the van, somebody from LA driving the van. And now me and my mom and Taryn, we go to Eagle Rock. We're going to Eagle Rock, and I go to meet this family, or this mom and dad named Lori and Tom Burpee, and they're from Canada. And I said, "Oh, how do you know them?" Like, I was wondering, like, where's my mom putting me, because I don't even know what I'm going to do. And so it was like, and she's like, "Oh, they're these amazing OT5 Scientologists, and I knew them they're from Canada, and they're like pretty much family and whatever, right?" Totally not the case. They are from Canada, but they're definitely their own family. And I'm just like this person who they feel like they're trying to help, or they're like fixing some ethics condition on their auditing or something. And so they're letting me come in and stay with them while, so that they can pull this attention off of this very important person's post, my mom, so she can go back to her post, and that I'm okay, and like they're going to become my new guardians or something. So then that kind of was that. We went to, I think, a Walmart or a Target, and got a few things like that I needed, and she got me a big blown up mattress, um, like like an air mattress. Like, you blow it up, and then some blankets and like whatever. And then Lori Burpee was like, "Yes, so this will be your room," and it like smelled like smoke. She smoked cigarettes and everything smoked, and it was just like this little room. And they were like, she was like, "Okay, so the rent is going to be $300 a month," and to me, I was like, 300. Okay, maybe that's like a lot. Sounds like a lot, but I just was like, "How am I gonna make $300 to pay for this room?" But I thought, "Okay, maybe I'll get a job or something and do it." I didn't have a car, didn't have my license, nothing. Like, so I just felt like whatever. So I definitely felt like a burden, and was like, "Oh, now." Anyway, so that's where I feel like I should kind of, uh end all that there on that part, because there's a lot of stuff in between all of this that gets really weird, where I then end up just leaving. One day I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go stay with my friend." I think I just told him, "Oh, my friend's letting me stay at her apartment," which wasn't the case. It was like Catherine Spallino, Plumi Besnard, and I think Amber Porter or somebody, who are all ex-cadets, either from the Int Ranch or the Pack Ranch Cadet. Um, and I basically was couch surfing, like sleeping on their couch, going out with them, doing whatever. I think I don't remember. There were some odd jobs and random things I was doing, but I was basically just couch surfing and like relying on other all the other cadets were kind of just helping each other out, and like we're all just relying on each other to get through this fucking weird new life of the world. So yeah, through a bunch of all that, I started working for different Scientology companies, sort of ish. Well, because Tom and Lori had their own duct cleaning company or something, so I started doing that. And like, I was doing all these like random jobs, obviously not stable at all. Um, and eventually, at a certain point, I started to work for. Um, oh my God, there was so much that happened. I started working for different things. I was doing random little Scientology jobs as much as I could here and there, but it was just I needed to have a stable job, place where I lived, blah, blah, blah. So I randomly was, like, jumping in and out of Scientology families, whether it was in Sunland or Hollywood or this, and then, "Oh, now I'm gonna stay with my brother, and now I'm gonna do this." It was just, like, random jobs, but I think one of the ones that I kind of landed for a bit was at the, um Delphi, Delphi Academy with Catherine, and she was a teacher working there, and the people I lived the Scientology people I lived within the Sunland area, Sun Valley area, um, one of the mom or somebody worked at Delphi, so they got me a job. It was like a just helping, like, as an assistant teacher because obviously I didn't know credentials of having an education whatsoever, um but I was good with kids and, like, dealing when they got upset, I would just be like, "Okay, let's go take a walk and talk to me about it," or whatever, and some people were very difficult, and I would just put myself in their position, like, being that way when I was a cadet, and I'd be like, "Okay, what would make them feel better?" It was just, like, the same sort of upsets, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, I can fix this." So I kind of was good with, like, the kids, and I could be used here and there and da da da. But so during this time, I also was, like, finishing my, liability condition or seeing what I could do to finish that, and during this time, I also met this other guy, Simon Carr, through all the other cadets, because he was once a cadet at the Pack Ranch and then left earlier before he was gonna actually join the Sea Org. But anyways, I ended up marrying him at 19, because I really did. I felt so comfortable with him. I really was in love with him at the time. Um, and I felt safe that he wasn't really like a hardcore Scientologist, like, and he knew about the Sea Org and the Cadet Org, but anyways, I just felt like whatever. So we got married. He was in the military. He got orders to go to Germany. So then the next thing I know, I'm going to Germany to be, I started working at the bowling alley on the military base. I started just learn. I kind of forgot really about Scientology in terms of like on a daily basis, always around like friends, whether that's friends or remarks from parents or on the phone or something. Like I started, it was just kind of like I'm in Germany. I'm in a whole nother world. I'm in the Air Force, I felt like I was in the Air Force because my husband at the time was. And then I was working at the bowling alley on the Air Force base. And during that time, I had met some producers. I had already done some music, a little bit of music. Like I was dabbling, like, oh, I want to do music, and like in terms of singing, I knew nothing about actually recording and making music. Right over my head. Um, so I just knew that I wanted to sing in some way or perform or dance or something. So I met some producers at the Air Force Base who were in the Air Force. They were younger. And so I made some I'll probably have to play for you. Once I get really good at this streaming thing, I'll have all these things so I can like run through, go through the quick guideline on this beginning episode and then go through pictures and images and detailed stuff throughout the whole timeline and talking about all the things we were talking about. Okay, so married and then Germany, that was crazy. I realized I wanted to be back in LA. I got a gig to do a Blondie song from like an audition, Call Me. And they were like, oh, can you come? We were looking for somebody who can sing this song, do a cover, but make it her own style, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, oh my God, this is it. Honey, Simon, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to do this audition. And then, I'm like, whatever. I just thought maybe this was going to be the thing that like blew up my career and whatever. I got there, did the thing. It was cool. Came back, did a little more recording of. They're like, "Oh yeah, she got a great voice." Okay, it was like my first time like being there recording anything, like other than these producers in Germany and then the little dabbling stuff I had done a little bit before I jumped off and got married. So then, um, eventually, when I got back to LA to do that audition, I was kind of like, it didn't look like I was going to get it. There was some other good people and whatever, and I was also just young and new at it. And, but I realized, like, I I was feeling like, "Oh my god, I didn't get it. Now what am I gonna do?" And then I was like, I don't wanna go back to Germany." It wasn't that I wasn't in love with Simon or didn't wanna be married, I or maybe I didn't wanna be married, but I just felt like, "How am I going to live this, like, really flowing musician life while being married?" I just felt like that didn't work, and I was like, "But maybe it could," and then I was like so I was just going through this whole thing, like, I how do I tell Simon that I don't wanna go back? How do I not go back to Germany? Um, so that was really hard because I also avoided it like a child, obviously an immature child of not knowing how to really handle something like that. I just avoided it and stayed in LA, and then I kind of was like, "I don't wanna go back to Germany." He's like, "What are you gonna like, does it mean you're leaving me?" I was like, "No," and so there was a guy when I was doing my liability conditions, like, to make up amends to the Sea Org, I met this guy, Ben, during a Dianetics seminar, and, I was, like, helping I really liked him, he was really cool, I helped him I don't know, I felt like I was helping him, like, get over his depression and things like that, and, so we became pretty close, and also it was fun to like, I guess I got along he's Persian, so I got along with him really well, and we were, like, so different. That's what it felt like, we just had such different lives, but for some reason, I was helping him with all this knowledge I knew about Dianetics and, like, how to be how the mind works and all that, and so we became close, so I went when I got there, I was like, "Ben," I was just, like, texting him, and I was like, he was shocked when I had told him that I had gotten married. He's like, "So you're married?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I was like, "But I need a place to stay." Anyways, can I he was like basically, he was just like, "Do you" he was like, "Are you need a place to stay? Are you, like, in a situation?" I was like, "Yeah, can I stay in your, guest in your apartment?" He had, like, an extra room, and so I stayed in his apartment, I think, for, like, a week or 2, and I don't know what the fuck I was doing, and there was a phone in there, and I just, like I called Plumi and Catherine or whatever, "Are you guys going out to do something?" And they're like, "Are you gonna call Simon? He's been trying to get a hold of you," or whatever. Eventually, Simon got the number from the phone that I called Plumi or Catherine or something, and then we finally had to talk. It was really hard for him, and it was also hard for me because, I felt like I was being so bad. Like, I just felt like not like a fun, nice, loyal human. Like, I'm not giving my heart as I told him I would. Anywho, so all that goes, I get it. So I stay in LA, I don't go back to Germany. By the way, I came from Germany on one of those Caribbean like those, I guess they're called I don't know what they're called, they're like the jets where they carry the cargo of the military, so I was, like, sitting sideways strapped into the thing, and there was, like, another military soldier there, and then just a bunch of equipment and machines. That was, like, me flying from Germany on this cheap flight to maybe go get this really cool audition. And, Simon was so supportive, and he got that all set anyhow, yeah. So did I just yell at my mic? So wow, this is a lot. It's, like, a lot on the heart to, like, remember, like, and just to process and go through. So we'll finish up soon here. I've almost been here for 2 hours, you guys. It feels like I've been talking to myself, but not really. Um, so 8:50, I'm gonna finish at 9, so maybe you can scroll through some things. But first, let me just finish. So, I during the time I got the divorce, and then I started hanging out with all, like, the Pack Ranch friends and all this, Jason Celino and, Catherine and Tony and Susie would come visit from it was like our whole little group, and then me and Jason started working and doing, like, music stuff with our other friend, Jason Bradley, who he had somewhere out and whatever. So we started making music, and I would just like kind of do vocals and like, "Oh, that sounds good. You should add like this bit." And oh, before we realized that we were making music and songs, and it was just fun and like not a thing. And then we actually had one of our first shows before we even had a band name. Anyways, so we did our shows at a club, a gay club called Shits and Giggles. Through all this time as well, I was learning the world and we started, a band called Little Red Radio. We went on tour. I had forgotten about Scientology. I didn't have my dad, like, checking in on the weekend, like, "Hey, I have libs this Sunday," or, "Hey, I gotta talk to you about this KR." Like, there was just nothing like, there was no connection. It was like we were this, like, wild party band just having fun, making up lyrics about whatever the fuck, and just going on tour and having fun. Like, and so I really got to know the world, and if you wanna check it out, Little Red Radio. Um, that was the band that got me through a lot of learning of the industry, um, finding myself, finding just I mean, not myself, just like learning how to be, without relying on so much of my old life. So during Little Red Radio, there was specifically one time where I was, like, smoking, I started smoking some weed and laughing and da da da, and there was a specific time I was staring out the window, and there was the Scientology sign, and I was smoking my joint, and I was literally, like, I was thinking, "What's true for me is true for me, and nobody can change that," and I was thinking, like, "I'm not a Scientologist." Like, that is true for me. I was really stuck, it was probably just really funny, but, that was the moment where I was like, "I'm smoking weed, I'm not gonna tell people," but, like, the marijuana got me into a position where I could just loosen up and feel whatever, and I could talk to myself. I would be, like, creating and doing it got me very into my creative world where I could just kind of be fun and, make music and whatever, and in that moment, I just remember, like, I felt like I wanted to, like, tell Jason or somebody. I'm not a Scientologist. Just wanna be clear about that. Like, I'm just okay, so yeah, so the band and the music and all that, Little Red Radio went on, we were really fun and amazing, we did a bunch of shows, we opened up the Flock of Seagulls, which then later I went and was doing my solo music and went on tour and did a bunch of, merch gigs and things like that with the Flock of Seagulls, met Berlin, went in Rome, all these, like, '80s bands that I had idolized for so long just from the radio, not physically, because we weren't allowed to have pictures of any, so it would just be like, I hear their song and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I would know the song verbatim and not know, like, the band or whatever, never met I got to meet a bunch of singers, I got to meet a lot of cool people on that, and then in that moment, I also had met, Madam Gandhi, Kiran Gandhi, who is a drummer who had moved from New York to LA and was living in the art share where I had, like, my first, art loft, which I got from another Scientologist, and I mean, the building was not owned, but they were managed by another Scientologist at the time, so that's how I even got into that. During that time, I also started working for Grant Cardone, and literally going from art fair to West Hollywood for a long time. And when I met Grant Cardone, the neighbor during that whole thing, I worked for him for a while. I had known Grant Cardone and his brother and his whole family and all that shit, from Florida, from being an MAA, being an ethics officer in Clearwater. So I just kinda knew how to deal with all these kind of bigger Scientologists already. I was already sort of comfortable and not afraid or whatever. Yep. Golden works for Grant Cardone. Um, yeah, so that's another see, I'm just giving you the chapters, and then we can break it all down on all these episodes, because then it will really bring up all the details of everything. But that way people kinda know the timeline of everything, and they're not jumping everywhere back and forth. Um, so yeah, got through my liability conditions, when I was working with Grant Cardone, because then it was like, "Oh, yeah, she can go back to flag," but at the same time, in my mind, I'm still like, "No, all this is kinda bullshit, but I'll just get through it so I can be in good standing, so I can just talk to my mom, and I can just live my life and not have to fucking think about any of this shit anymore." But obviously that didn't happen. So during that time, the neighbor needed help, and I was looking for more work and more hours, and I was like, "Guys," I told the assistant at the time, "If I don't get more work and hours, I can't keep coming here, freaking taking the bus and my crappy car all the way to West Hollywood from downtown LA and only getting paid $70." Like, that was just crazy. Um, I mean, I didn't think it was crazy. I was just like, "Please get me." Anyways, so then I told Jen, the assistant, "I need more work." Later, she was like, "You're so OT. Guess what?" The next day, I guess the neighbor called, and her name is also Elena, and she was like, "Hi," and she was like, telling Jen I need basically, I called her, but Jen said, "The neighbor needs an assistant. She just needs it for random jobs, you know, da, 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 errands, just random things." And I was like, "Yes, that's me. I could probably." So long story shorter, I started working for this girl, Elena, the neighbor, and during that process and that whole life and still being on tour and doing fun shows with Little Red Radio, it really I started learning, like, her life, and she was teaching me a lot about history and watching I would be, like, cutting vegetables and stuff in her kitchen and preparing her food for her and Bob, and it would I would be watching her watch the science film, like, regular science or History Channel, and I was just like, "Wow, we're molecules in space," and, like, I was this is how I was learning. It was, like, a whole new world. I was like, "What? So this is real science?" Like, it just was blowing my mind. I don't know how else to describe it other than that. Like, anywho, so, that is kind of the whole thing. I've been working for Elena, then I stopped working for Greg Cardone and only worked for Elena, and then after I was learning my life, uh I started opening up more to Elena, you know, she has a really good head on her shoulders, psychologically, she's, like, trained psychologically, so I'm sure she was able to, like, just give me advice in times that I really needed that I had no idea, like and she was just, like, doo doo, throwing, like, probably normal things out there, and I was like, "Oh, wow." Whatever. Anywho, so between that and the tour and meeting all these new bands and da da da, and then starting my own music and writing my own music and all these kinds of things, eventually leading it up to now, 5 years ago, I was declared an SP because, basically, I just told my dad, "I'm not a Scientologist anymore, and you keep having me trying to go into the celebrity center organization to these programs and whatever, and, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not a Scientologist." So anyways, it just got really horrible because he kept coming to my art studio unannounced, like, at random hours. I would be out of town sometimes. The neighbors were telling me he was sitting outside, you know, out and I would see him, he would leave letters like, "Hey, was here looking," and it was just kinda like, "When is he gonna hear me?" There is so much that I will share with you. There's videos, there's, um letters, emails, a lot of hard stuff, which I won't do on this because I'm gonna end this soon. But I would say that now that we have this all, like, lined up, I can do that, I can show you everything, but me and my dad went through basically, it was my dad was put on me as, like, you're gonna handle your daughter. You know, your mom is at gold my mom, his wife, is at gold, and she can't be distracted by this isn't turbulent, you need to fix this, you know, you need to get your fucking shit together, this is your problem. So, he was getting all this pressure to fix it. Anyways, I ended up saying, like, "Stop doing this." He showed up at my door I was gardening, I was smoking a joint, honestly, it was a Sunday morning or something, I wasn't expect I had no anyways, I was watering the plants and I heard a cough. I was like a and I was like, "You're" like, my heart felt so upset. Like, "Why is my dad out there?" And I thought, "No, you're wrong." It's n like, it was just a little cough. It was like I was like, "That sounded like my dad." And I went to open the door of the garden door just to open it to see, like, am I being a stoner, you know, and he was there right in the front with his Sea Org cap, like a little cap trying to pretend he's just wearing jeans and a regular shirt, and it scared me. I got so scared and so violated and mad, like, "You're not hearing me. You just keep showing up and shoving this, like, you must do this." You know, it's like it just felt so like, "You're not listening to me." And I'm feeling bad about it now because I feel bad about it because it ended up being the last conversation I had with him. Um, but I just slammed the door. I just felt so, like, ruined. I felt like so, like, I'm, like, trying to do my art and live this new life, and you've just, like, bombarded and you can constantly keep controlling every aspect of it. And I think my instinct just slammed the door. I didn't even mean to, like, sound just like, "Ah, what the fuck? You can't do that." And I just slammed the door, and I just started crying. I started crying. I was just, like, upset, and I went right back into the warehouse, like, where I lived. And I didn't go out, and I wrote him a letter, an email that said, "I'm so sick of this." Sorry, guys, I had to go through this. Yeah. I was just so sick of it. I said, "I will be here when you're ready to be a father to me, when you can be a father and not have it related to, like, Scientology and every single thing. You can do that. I will do my life, but I cannot be in a relationship mentally with you if you are still in the Sea Org." I was like, "You need to come out here. I am here. You can come have a conversation with me anytime and talk to me. You don't need to be forcing me to have to do these things." Anyways, I'll read the letter, the email on another one, but that was basically the end of that. And then a couple months later, I got, uh, the phone call from my brother, which he basically said, "Oh my god, you know, they called me and they had me go into the Texas organization," because that's where he was at the time, and, basically sat down with the guy and he showed him my SP declare order, my golden rod. And then, and it basically just said all this thing, you know, whatever it was, can't hold a job, she's promiscuous, um, violating policy, talking to SPs or whatever it said, and my brother was kind of, like, panicky at the time, and I remember trying to calm him down, like, just being like, "It's fine, it's not whatever, who cares, Jared? Ooh, wow, I'm declared, you know, whatever, it's not like dot," you know, but then when we were finished, I was like, "Oh my god, I'm declared. I can't fucking," like, so that was that. Alright, guys. Woo! Um, okay, I'm gonna end it, guys. I love you. I'm gonna end it on that note. We will be I like this. We're getting good at this. We're getting good at this. This feels good. It's very therapeutic, I'm telling you. I'm sure I'm not having the only stories like this. I know a lot of people are listening that are going to listen in the future to the replay of this. And this is how we're gonna heal. We have to get this out. We have to get this on the record. This is for the record. We need everybody's individual stories are superly important to to make this stop. Um, but specifically for the kids and the minors and the underage trafficking and the human trafficking, the child trafficking, the sexual abuse, the mental abuse, the torture, the physical torture, all of that has to stop. Young children never are not supposed to be put in a life situation where they're permanently just in a suppressed environment where they can only do certain things and say certain things and act certain ways and not be a child when they are a child. So yeah. Okay, I'm gonna save the comments and the questions and all that for later. I feel like this was a really long one, guys. I'm impressed with myself. I want to thank you all for coming in and watching, and you can continue to uh, join me on these little channel adventures of SPTV. And this time I'll try not to cry. All right. Okay, yeah, we'll do comments another time. I will answer the questions and comments on this one on the next episode 2. See you there. Bye. Check everything out, LARA.fm. Ciao.